Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video where we'll be exploring some fascinating recent scientific research on our ancient human relatives, the Neanderthals. I'm excited to take you on a journey through time to uncover new insights about these mysterious hominids who lived alongside our own species for thousands of years. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll dive into several key areas of Neanderthal research that are reshaping our understanding of these ancient people. We'll look at groundbreaking discoveries about Neanderthal biology, behavior, culture, and their interactions with early modern humans. Along the way, we'll bust some common myths and misconceptions about Neanderthals. Why is this topic so important and relevant today? Well, studying Neanderthals gives us crucial insights into human evolution and the development of the traits that make us uniquely human. It helps us understand the diversity of our human family tree and how we came to be the only surviving human species. Neanderthal research also sheds light on human adaptability, migration patterns, and even the roots of culture and cognition. For professionals in fields like anthropology, archaeology, and genetics, staying up to date on Neanderthal research is essential. But this topic isn't just for academics. It's captivating for anyone curious about human origins and our ancient past. Whether you're a student, an enthusiast, or just love learning cool science, I think you'll find lots to get excited about. In this video, we'll cover several major themes. New findings on Neanderthal biology and physical traits. Insights into Neanderthal behavior, cognition, and culture. Evidence for interbreeding between Neanderthals and modern humans. The extinction of Neanderthals and factors that may have contributed. How Neanderthal genes continue to influence human health and traits today. My goal is to give you a broad overview of where the science currently stands on these topics. We'll look at the key evidence and what it means, but keep in mind that this is a rapidly evolving field. New discoveries are constantly refining and sometimes dramatically shifting our understanding of Neanderthals. I hope that by the end of this video, you'll have a much richer appreciation for who Neanderthals were and how similar yet distinct they were from our own species. You'll understand how intertwined our evolutionary stories are, and how studying Neanderthals gives us profound insights into what it means to be human. So get comfortable, maybe grab a snack, and let's dive in to explore the fascinating world of our Neanderthal cousins. Part 1. Neanderthal biology and physical traits. Let's start by looking at some of the latest findings on Neanderthal biology and physical characteristics. Recent research is giving us an increasingly detailed picture of what Neanderthals looked like and how their bodies functioned. One area that's seen major advances is our understanding of Neanderthal facial features. Contrary to old stereotypes of Neanderthals as brutish cavemen, we now know they had quite refined and distinctive faces. Their most prominent features were large, wide noses and pronounced brow ridges above their eyes. These distinct nasal structures weren't just for looks, they likely served important functions. The large nasal cavities may have helped warm and humidify cold air before it reached the lungs, which would have been advantageous in the harsh Ice Age climates Neanderthals often lived in. The pronounced brow ridges may have strengthened the skull to withstand the forces generated by powerful jaw muscles. Speaking of jaws, Neanderthals had notably receding chins compared to modern humans. Their teeth were also distinctive, with larger incisors that showed heavy wear. This tooth wear pattern, along with chemical analysis of dental tartar, gives us clues about their diet and how they used their teeth as tools. Moving to body proportions, Neanderthals were shorter on average than modern humans, but much more stocky and muscular. Adult males averaged around 5 feet 5 inches tall and females around 5 feet 1 inch, but they were powerfully built with barrel chests and strong limbs. This stocky build was likely another cold climate adaptation, helping to conserve body heat. Their limb proportions were also distinctive, with shorter lower legs and forearms relative to their upper limbs. This is a pattern we see in many cold-adapted mammals, as it reduces heat loss from extremities. However, it may have made Neanderthals somewhat less efficient at running compared to the longer-limbed modern humans. Recent genetic studies have given us even more detailed insights into Neanderthal traits. For instance, we've learned that some Neanderthals likely had pale skin and red hair, traits that evolved independently from similar features in modern Europeans. Genes linked to skin color suggest Neanderthals living in Europe had light skin tones that helped them synthesize vitamin D in low sunlight environments. Another fascinating area of research looks at Neanderthal brains. While their brains were slightly larger on average than those of modern humans, the shape and structure were different. Neanderthal brains were more elongated from front to back, while modern human brains are more globular. This structural difference may reflect distinctions in cognitive functions, though the exact implications are still debated. We're also learning about Neanderthal sensory abilities. Genetic evidence suggests they may have had heightened visual acuity compared to modern humans, possibly an adaptation for hunting in low-light forest environments. Their ear structures indicate they likely had similar hearing capabilities to us, hinting at the importance of vocal communication. One of the most groundbreaking recent findings relates to Neanderthal growth and development. By studying teeth, which preserve a record of daily growth much like tree rings, researchers have found that Neanderthal children may have grown up faster than modern human kids. They seem to have reached adulthood earlier, which could have implications for social structure and lifespan. Speaking of lifespan, while Neanderthals had a lower average life expectancy than modern humans, this was largely due to high infant mortality and hazardous lifestyles. Many Neanderthals did survive well into their 30s and 40s, with some even reaching their 60s or 70s. Caring for elderly or injured group members appears to have been common. Another key area of Neanderthal biology research focuses on their immune systems and disease susceptibility. By analyzing Neanderthal DNA, scientists have identified genes related to immune function that differ from those in modern humans. This suggests Neanderthals may have had different vulnerabilities to certain pathogens, which could have played a role in their ultimate extinction. Lastly, let's touch on Neanderthal genetics more broadly. The sequencing of the Neanderthal genome has been a game changer, allowing us to compare their DNA directly to that of modern humans. We now know that Neanderthals were our very close relatives, sharing about 99.7% of our DNA sequence. This genetic analysis has revealed fascinating details about Neanderthal population sizes and diversity. It appears that Neanderthal populations were generally small and isolated, leading to low genetic diversity. This may have made them more vulnerable to environmental changes and disease. To recap this section on Neanderthal biology, we've seen that Neanderthals had distinctive facial features, stocky builds, and unique limb proportions that likely helped them thrive in cold climates. Their growth patterns, sensory abilities, and immune systems also differed in important ways from modern humans. Genetic studies continue to reveal new insights about their traits and population dynamics. All of this paints a picture of a human species that was highly adapted to its environment, yet vulnerable in ways that may have contributed to its eventual extinction. Part 2. Neanderthal behavior and cognition. Now let's shift our focus to what we've learned about how Neanderthals behaved and thought. This is an area where research has really transformed our view of Neanderthals in recent years. For a long time, Neanderthals were seen as cognitively inferior to modern humans, incapable of complex thought or cultural expression. But a wealth of archaeological evidence now shows this view was deeply flawed. Neanderthals were sophisticated toolmakers, hunters, and problem solvers with rich social lives. Let's start with Neanderthal technology. They were masters of stone tool production, creating a wide variety of specialized implements for different tasks. Their most characteristic tools belong to what's called the Mousterian tradition, which includes finely worked stone scrapers, points, and hand axes. But Neanderthals didn't just work with stone. There's growing evidence they also crafted tools from wood, bone, and antler. They even appear to have invented a form of glue made from birch bark tar, which required a complex production process. This suggests they had the cognitive ability to plan ahead and execute multi-step procedures. Neanderthal hunting strategies have also been a major focus of research. Far from being simple scavengers, they were skilled big game hunters who often targeted large, dangerous prey like woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and cave bears. This required careful planning, teamwork, and the ability to anticipate animal behavior. Analysis of animal bones from Neanderthal sites shows they were adept at fully exploiting their kills, efficiently butchering carcasses and likely preserving meat for later use. There's also evidence they consumed a variety of plant foods and even cooked their meals, with some sites preserving traces of hearths and roasted plant remains. One of the most exciting areas of recent research looks at Neanderthal cognitive abilities. Studies of Neanderthal brain casts suggest they had large frontal lobes, associated with functions like planning and social behavior. While their brain structure differed from modern humans, it appears they were capable of complex thought and problem-solving. This is supported by archaeological evidence for behaviors that require advanced cognition. For instance, there are signs that Neanderthals cared for their sick and injured, buried their dead with grave goods, and possibly even created symbolic art. These behaviors hint at a capacity for empathy, abstract thought, and perhaps even spirituality. The question of whether Neanderthals had language remains hotly debated, but several lines of evidence suggest they likely did. Their throat and vocal tract anatomy appears capable of producing a range of sounds, and they possessed a gene called FOXP2 that in humans is linked to language ability. Complex behaviors like coordinated hunting and tool-making would also have benefited from linguistic communication. Another fascinating area of research examines Neanderthal social structures. While group sizes were likely small, there's evidence for complex social bonds. Neanderthal sites often show signs of long-term occupation, suggesting stable social groups. Analysis of teeth has even hinted at possible patrilocal mating systems, where females moved between groups while males stayed with their birth group. Neanderthal childcare practices have also come under scrutiny. It appears they invested heavily in raising their young, with evidence for extended periods of nursing and gradual weaning. This long period of dependency suggests a capacity for strong emotional bonds and social learning. One of the most exciting recent developments in Neanderthal research is the discovery of potential art and personal ornaments at Neanderthal sites. While still controversial, there's growing evidence that Neanderthals may have painted cave walls, made jewelry from animal teeth and shells, and even used pigments like ochre, possibly for body decoration. If confirmed, this would be a major shift in our understanding of Neanderthal cognitive abilities. The capacity for art and symbolic expression has long been seen as a hallmark of modern human cognition. If Neanderthals shared this ability, it would suggest their minds were much more like our own than previously thought. There's also intriguing evidence that Neanderthals may have had some form of musical expression. Bone flutes found at Neanderthal sites hint at the possibility of early musical instruments, though some researchers argue these are the result of animal gnawing rather than intentional human manufacture. To sum up this section on Neanderthal behavior and cognition, the evidence increasingly points to Neanderthals as intelligent, socially complex beings capable of sophisticated tool use, hunting strategies, and possibly even art and music. While there were likely cognitive differences from modern humans, the gap appears much smaller than once thought. Neanderthals were not the brutish cavemen of popular imagination, but a highly successful human species with their own unique adaptations and abilities. Part 3. Neanderthal-modern human interactions. One of the most fascinating and controversial areas of Neanderthal research concerns their interactions with early modern humans. For tens of thousands of years, these two human species coexisted in Eurasia, and the nature of their relationship has long been a subject of intense scientific debate. The first question is when and where Neanderthals and modern humans first encountered each other. The current evidence suggests that modern humans began expanding out of Africa around 70,000 to 60,000 years ago, gradually spreading into Eurasia where Neanderthals had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. The two species likely first came into contact in the Middle East around 60,000 years ago. From there, as modern humans continued to expand their range, they would have encountered Neanderthal populations across Europe and Asia. For many years, scientists debated whether Neanderthals and modern humans interbred. Some argued that the two species were too different to produce viable offspring, while others pointed to fossil evidence suggesting hybridization. This debate was largely settled by genetic evidence in 2010, when the first draft of the Neanderthal genome was published. This groundbreaking research revealed that most people of non-African descent carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, typically around 1 to 4%. This discovery proved that not only did Neanderthals and modern humans interbreed, but that some of their hybrid offspring must have been healthy enough to survive and have their own children, passing on Neanderthal genes to future generations. Subsequent genetic studies have refined our understanding of this interbreeding. It appears there were multiple episodes of interbreeding over tens of thousands of years, likely occurring whenever the two species came into contact. The amount of Neanderthal DNA in modern human populations varies, with slightly higher percentages in East Asian populations compared to Europeans. Interestingly, the X chromosome and certain other parts of the genome show reduced levels of Neanderthal ancestry. This suggests there may have been some negative selection against Neanderthal genes in these regions, possibly due to reduced fertility in male hybrids, a common occurrence when closely related species interbreed. The discovery of interbreeding has led to fascinating research on how Neanderthal genes continue to influence human traits today. Some Neanderthal gene variants have been linked to aspects of skin and hair color, immunity, and even behavioral traits like mood disorders and sleeping patterns. Not all of these Neanderthal gene variants are beneficial in modern contexts. Some may increase the risk of certain diseases or conditions. However, the fact that they've persisted in human populations for tens of thousands of years suggests they likely provided some adaptive advantages in the past. Beyond genetics, researchers have also looked for archaeological evidence of interactions between Neanderthals and modern humans. This has proven challenging, as it's often difficult to definitively attribute artifacts to one species or the other, especially in regions where they coexisted. However, there are some intriguing hints. For instance, some Neanderthal sites from around 40,000 years ago show signs of more advanced technologies and symbolic behaviors, like personal ornaments. Some researchers argue this could be evidence of cultural exchange with newly arrived modern humans, though others suggest Neanderthals may have independently developed these behaviors. The nature of Neanderthal-modern human interactions remains a subject of debate. Were they mostly peaceful, or characterized by conflict? Did the two species trade, or largely avoid each other? The archaeological record is frustratingly silent on many of these questions, leaving room for speculation. What we do know is that within about 30,000 years of modern humans arriving in Eurasia, Neanderthals had disappeared. The last known Neanderthal sites date to around 40,000 years ago in Europe, though they may have persisted longer in some isolated areas. This brings us to one of the biggest questions in Neanderthal research. Why did they go extinct? The timing certainly suggests that the arrival of modern humans played a role, but the exact mechanisms are still debated. Some researchers argue that modern humans simply outcompeted Neanderthals for resources, perhaps due to superior technology or social organization. Others suggest that diseases carried by modern humans might have devastated Neanderthal populations who lacked immunity. Climate change likely also played a role. The period of Neanderthal extinction coincided with significant climate fluctuations that would have stressed plant and animal populations Neanderthals relied on. Modern humans, with their more diverse toolkits and social networks, may have been better able to adapt to these changes. It's likely that a combination of factors contributed to Neanderthal extinction. Competition with modern humans, climate change, and possibly inbreeding in small, isolated populations may have all played a part in their decline. To recap this section on Neanderthal-modern human interactions, genetic evidence has conclusively shown that the two species interbred, leaving a legacy of Neanderthal DNA in most non-African populations today. The nature of their social interactions remains unclear, but the arrival of modern humans in Eurasia coincides with the eventual extinction of Neanderthals. This complex relationship between our two species continues to be a rich area of scientific inquiry. Part 4. Neanderthal culture and symbolic behavior. In our final section, let's explore one of the most exciting and rapidly evolving areas of Neanderthal research: their capacity for culture and symbolic behavior. This topic has seen some of the most dramatic shifts in scientific thinking over recent years, challenging long-held assumptions about Neanderthal cognitive abilities. For decades, the ability to create art and engage in symbolic thinking was seen as a unique hallmark of modern humans. Neanderthals were thought to lack these abilities, reflecting a supposedly inferior cognitive capacity. However, a growing body of evidence is forcing us to reconsider this view. Let's start with one of the most headline-grabbing discoveries: cave art potentially created by Neanderthals. In several caves in Spain, simple red paintings, including hand stencils and geometric shapes, have been dated to over 65,000 years ago. This is long before modern humans are thought to have arrived in Europe, suggesting Neanderthals may have been the artists. If confirmed, this would be a game-changer in our understanding of Neanderthal cognition. Creating cave art requires not just technical skill, but the ability to think symbolically and represent abstract ideas. It hints at a rich inner world that we're only beginning to glimpse. But potential cave paintings aren't the only evidence for Neanderthal art. There are also findings of pigments like ochre at Neanderthal sites, sometimes showing signs of processing. While ochre has practical uses, it's also commonly used for body decoration in many cultures. This raises the intriguing possibility that Neanderthals may have engaged in body painting or other forms of personal adornment. Another line of evidence comes from jewelry and personal ornaments. Eagle talons found at Neanderthal sites show signs of having been worked into beads, possibly for necklaces. Shells with natural holes have also been found far from the coast at Neanderthal sites, suggesting they may have been collected and transported for decorative purposes. These findings are significant because personal ornaments are often seen as expressions of individual or group identity, a key aspect of symbolic culture. If Neanderthals were indeed making and wearing jewelry, it suggests they had a sense of self and group belonging not unlike our own. There's also growing evidence that Neanderthals engaged in ritualistic behaviors, particularly around death. Several Neanderthal burial sites have been discovered, some with tantalizing hints of funerary practices. For instance, pollen found in one Neanderthal grave suggests flowers may have been placed with the body, a poignant hint at symbolic thinking and perhaps even spiritual beliefs. Another intriguing area of research looks at potential Neanderthal use of bird feathers and talons. Several sites have yielded bird bones with cut marks suggesting deliberate removal of large feathers that had no practical use. This has led some researchers to propose that Neanderthals may have used colorful feathers for decoration, much like many modern human cultures do. Let's turn now to Neanderthal technology, which itself can be seen as a form of cultural expression. While we touched on this earlier, it's worth emphasizing just how sophisticated Neanderthal stone tool technology was. The precision and standardization seen in many Neanderthal tools suggests they were passing down complex technical knowledge through generations, a hallmark of cumulative culture. But Neanderthals didn't just work with stone. There's growing evidence for the use of wood, bone, and antler to create tools. Perhaps most impressively, some sites have yielded traces of a glue-like substance made from birch bark tar. Creating this adhesive requires a complex, multi-step process, providing compelling evidence for the Neanderthal capacity to plan ahead and think abstractly. One particularly fascinating area of research concerns potential Neanderthal use of medicinal plants. Analysis of dental calculus, hardened plaque on teeth, from Neanderthal remains has identified traces of plants with no nutritional value but known medicinal properties. This raises the intriguing possibility that Neanderthals may have had some knowledge of herbal medicine. There's also tentative evidence that Neanderthals may have engaged in some form of music or rhythmic behavior. Supposed bone flutes have been found at some Neanderthal sites, though there's debate about whether these are actually human-made instruments or the result of animal gnawing. If Neanderthals did create music, it would be yet another indication of their capacity for abstract thinking and cultural expression. Language remains one of the most hotly debated aspects of Neanderthal culture. While we can't know for certain whether or how Neanderthals spoke, several lines of evidence suggest they likely had some form of complex vocal communication. Their vocal anatomy appears capable of producing a range of sounds, and they possessed a version of the FOXP2 gene associated with language ability in modern humans. Moreover, many of the complex behaviors we see evidence for, from coordinated hunting to the passing down of tool-making techniques, would be difficult to achieve without some form of language. While Neanderthal language may have been different from our own, the evidence increasingly suggests they were likely verbal communicators. It's important to note that all of these cultural and symbolic behaviors didn't appear suddenly, but likely evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Some researchers argue that we can see a gradual increase in the complexity of Neanderthal material culture over time, possibly reflecting cognitive changes or cultural accumulation. To sum up this section on Neanderthal culture and symbolic behavior, the evidence increasingly points to Neanderthals as a species with rich cultural practices and the capacity for symbolic thought. From possible cave art and personal ornaments to complex technologies and burial practices, Neanderthals seem to have shared many of the cognitive abilities once thought unique to modern humans. This doesn't mean Neanderthal culture was identical to that of early modern humans. There were likely significant differences reflecting their unique evolutionary history and adaptations. But the gap between Neanderthal and modern human cognitive abilities appears to be much smaller than once thought. These findings have profound implications for how we understand human evolution and the nature of our own species. They suggest that many of the traits we think of as uniquely human, art, symbolism, complex culture, may in fact be broader features of the genus Homo, evolving over hundreds of thousands of years rather than appearing suddenly with modern humans. As we continue to uncover new evidence and refine our understanding of Neanderthal culture, we're gaining invaluable insights into the roots of human cognitive evolution and the diverse ways our ancient relatives engaged with their world. Key takeaways and broader implications, 5 to 7 minutes, approximately 700 words. As we wrap up our exploration of recent Neanderthal research, let's take a moment to reflect on some key takeaways and their broader implications. First, it's clear that our understanding of Neanderthals has undergone a dramatic transformation in recent years. Far from being the brutish, unintelligent cavemen of old stereotypes, Neanderthals emerge from the evidence as a sophisticated human species with their own unique adaptations and abilities. We've seen that Neanderthals were physically adapted to cold climates, with stocky builds and distinctive facial features that likely helped them thrive in Ice Age Europe. Their brains were as large as ours, though shaped differently, and they possessed cognitive abilities that in many ways rivaled those of early modern humans. Neanderthals were skilled toolmakers and hunters, capable of taking down large and dangerous prey. They cared for their sick and elderly, buried their dead, and likely engaged in symbolic behaviors including personal adornment and possibly even cave painting. All of this paints a picture of a species with complex social structures, the capacity for abstract thought, and possibly even spiritual beliefs. Perhaps most surprisingly, we now know that Neanderthals and modern humans interbred, leaving a legacy of Neanderthal DNA in most non-African populations today. This interbreeding has had lasting effects on human biology, influencing traits from immunity to skin color to behavioral tendencies. What are the broader implications of these findings? For one, they force us to reconsider what we mean when we talk about human qualities. Many of the traits we once thought unique to our species, art, symbolism, complex culture, appear to have deeper roots in our evolutionary past. This suggests a more gradual model of human cognitive evolution, rather than a sudden, creative explosion, with the arrival of modern humans. These findings also highlight the diversity of our human family tree. Neanderthals were just one of several human species that once walked the earth alongside our own ancestors. Each had their own unique adaptations and abilities, reminding us that our current status as the only surviving human species is a relatively recent and perhaps fortuitous development. The Neanderthal story also offers cautionary tales relevant to our own species. Despite their intelligence and adaptability, Neanderthals ultimately went extinct, a reminder of the fragility of even successful species in the face of environmental change and competition. As we grapple with our own global challenges, the fate of the Neanderthals serves as a sobering reminder of the need for resilience and adaptability. On a more positive note, The evidence of interbreeding between Neanderthals and modern humans reminds us of the basic genetic compatibility of different human groups. While Neanderthals were a distinct species, they were close enough relatives for successful interbreeding to occur. This deep history of genetic mixing stands in stark contrast to much more recent and scientifically baseless concepts of racial purity. As we conclude, it's worth emphasizing that Neanderthal research is a rapidly evolving field. New discoveries are constantly refining and sometimes dramatically shifting our understanding. The picture I've presented today is our best current understanding, but it's certain to be updated and revised as new evidence comes to light. I hope this overview has given you a sense of the exciting developments in Neanderthal research and sparked your curiosity to learn more. There's still so much to discover about our ancient relatives and what their story can tell us about our own origins and nature. If you've enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into human evolution, I encourage you to explore some of the resources I've listed in the description. And please share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear what aspects of Neanderthal research you find most fascinating or surprising. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. And if there are other topics in human evolution or archaeology you'd like to see covered, let me know. Your feedback helps shape future content. Thank you for joining me on this journey into our deep past. Until next time, keep curious and keep learning.